Well, once again, let's come back to some of the immigration issues surrounding United Kingdom in the last couple of days, and we got one that is trending currently. People are angry behind the wave of asylum hotel protests. Well, we do know that immigration can be very tense, and especially when we have a lot of migrants that are traveling from different countries around the world and traveling to different destinations. But it seems things are heating up in the United Kingdom. Let's take you through on the Koikimedia, bringing the world closer to your doorsteps. We are not happy with this man in this hotel because we fear for our children. Ola Minima tells me, if that makes me far right, then so be it. Holla has lived near Epping since she was a child and describes herself as a very boring woman who has worked in the City of London for 25 years. Last year, she joined Reformed UK, which is a political party, and hopes to stand as a local candidate for the party. On a busy road leading to Essex Town, the Bell Hotel, now fortified, is one of more than 200 across the country where the government houses asylum seekers. In the last month, a series of protests, usually several hundred people at a time, but sometimes thousands, have taken place against the use of hotels for asylum seekers. About 20 more were planned for Friday and Saturday this week. The latest round of demonstration began at the 80-room Bell in July after a man living in the hotel was arrested and subsequently charged with sexual assault, harassment, and inciting a girl to engage in sexual activity. Adush Kabatu, 41 years old, from Ethiopia, has denied the offenses and is in custody. The case has sparked a wild conversation about the effect of housing dozens of asylum seekers in hotels in communities across Britain. Before, there were women and children in the hotel. There was a little bit of crime. Most people got on with it, Ola said. But now it is the fact that it is all men. It is not a balanced culture. The protests have been promoted on social media under red, white, and blue banner text with slogans such as Protect our community, safety of women and children before foreigners, and all patriots welcome. We have identified far right activists at some of the protests, and activists who oppose them are watching what is happening closely. The activist group Stand Up to Racism sees these as far-right organizations stirring up racist violence and trying to repeat the violence that's feared after the murder of three young girls in Southport. However, the protests are often organized by people with little experience of street campaigning, including mothers with families and professional carriers like Ola. That they are getting involved suggests that in some communities with hotels close by, there is a shift in the public mood about Britain's asylum hotels. Outside the Bell, which is surrounded by steel fence and guarded by 24/7 security team, one of his residents, Walid from Libya, is a year into his asylum claim and waiting for his fourth Home Office interview. I spoke with one of the protesters while he says, everything is good, Epping is nice, we can sit and stay, people respect us. I want to learn English and work in a car wash or something. I will not stay here and take food. I have a dream to make money, play football, and have fun with my time. It is a small dream. Wale is happy to talk, give his name, have his picture taken, but two other young Iraq Kurdis who are staying at the Bell and allowed to freely come and go are more cautious and less positive. They tell me a gang of youth in masks and motorbikes has just shouted expletive at them. Shortly afterward, I catch sight of the bikers nearby. One of the asylum seekers says that living in a hotel room 24 hours a day is messing up with his mind. When I asked about their dealings with the Home Office, they hurried inside. The bell shortly afterwards, a passing driver yells, "Burn it down!" Last summer, in the wake of the murders of three young girls by a teenager in Southport, Mayside, that is what some protesters tried to do at other hotels. This summer, there have been isolated clashes when activists on each side of the argument, anti-fascists, had right, have faced each other or the police. Often, the migrants have watched from the sidelines and pen up the fence or filming from upstairs windows. The police have largely kept control, sometimes facing criticism for their methods, including the false claim that SS police use bus to transport pro-migrant activists to protest in Epping. For now, arrest numbers are way below those in 2024. I asked Ola, who made an impression speech at a recent protest, why she is so aggrieved by the asylum hotel. She says friends have described their daughters being grabbed by young non white men in the area. She has been shoplifting, she says in the local Marks and Spencer. Everyone knows the asylum seekers, Ola says. Epping is very white. She had of the hotel's occupant, you know they are coming for freebies, and when they come here, they abuse the privilege. It is ridiculous. Asylum seekers would say they are seeking protection by coming to the UK, although some are ultimately judged not to be eligible for asylum status. Last month, Stand Up to Racism claimed Ola had shared a stage with an alleged member of neo-Nazi group at a hotel protest. She told BBC News she had no idea who he was, and he says he has since left the group. Asylum seekers are not normally allowed to work in the UK. Successive governments have judged that paying for their accommodation and food is preferable to allowing them to compete with British workers in the jobs market, offering an incentive to come here. In June, the government warned some asylum seekers may be illicitly working as food delivery drivers. 16 miles south of Epping, residents in Canary Wharf, East London, live in gleaming glass towers and traditional East End houses alongside another asylum hotel. It is a very different place, but many locals share similar opinions. Asylum seekers recently arrived during the small hours of the wharfside four-star Britannian International, 610 rooms, but according to a maintenance engineer, no longer the luxury hotel described in some report. Rumors that they were coming trigger protests by local residents, many of them office workers in the Canary Wharf business district. Outside the hotel, Ching Ko, who is a Chinese, draws a distinction between his legal migration to the UK and illegal asylum seekers. If people can come over the channel illegally and easily, what encourage decent people to come legally, pay their tax, and get involved in this society? Is this setting a good example? This country has opened the border to illegal migrants. Lauren, who worked for his charity on the Isle of Dog, echoes the concerns in Epping. I don't know who they are. They are unidentified men who can walk around and do what they want to do with no consequences, she says. That comment, I don't know who they are, lies at the heart of the opposition to asylum seekers in the communities. It can be very hard to establish basic facts about the young men in the hotels, the system that put them there, or the impact that they might have on locals. While growing in numbers, asylum seekers will come by small boat across the English Channel, a small proportion of total immigration to the UK, and in 2024, just over a third of all asylum seekers. The government contracted out the task of accommodating them to three companies, Seco, Clear Springs, and Mears. They buy up rooms in hotels and houses usually taking them over completely. Ministers regularly talk about the ambition to smash the gangs, but say less about the hotels. The government won't confirm where they are because of concerns there might be attack. Medellin from the Migration Observatory point out there is a problem publishing information about small groups of asylum seekers when it might identify them by age or sex, a long-standing approach for public bodies. We know how many hotels are being used in each region. The vast majority are in south of England. They cost about £5.77 million a day for the government to provide. The estimate cost over a decade to 2029 are spiral from £4.5 billion in 2019 to £15.3 billion. But there are no specific figures for the age, sex of hotel occupants, no details about their countries of origin or their claim for sanctuary in the United Kingdom. So when local communities allege crimes, rates go up when asylum hotels are open or raise fears about the hotels being full of only single adult male. It is often impossible to prove the point either way. There were 35 sexual and violent offenses reported in Eppington in May, in the same month the year before when there was no asylum seeker. At the Bell, 28 sexual and violent offenses were reported. In May 2023, the hotel was being used by the Home Office for migrant families. The number of report offense was was 32. But how many of these offenses involve asylum seekers? The police do not publish statistics about exactly where crimes happen or who is reported to have committed them. So, in many ways, we don't know who they are. Ola believes more information will help reduce tension and is furious at the government handling of the asylum system. If you conceal the truth and you act as if you're hiding something, people are going to be angry, she says. If they said there are 70 in Bell Hotel, 5 from Sudan, 5 somewhere else, I think most people will feel better. Epping Forest District Council Conservative leader Chris Whitbread recently said that it is important to be transparent about asylum information in the hotel. In a recent report, the Independent Chief Inspector of Borders and Immigration, David Bolt, criticized how the Home Office deals with asylum hotel. It is clear that the Home Office still has a long way to go to build trust and confidence in his willingness to be open, honest about his intention and performance erode. The Home Office says it removed 6,000 people from hotels in the early 2025 and has already closed 200 hotels. In his manifesto, Labour pledges to close down all by the next election. On the other side of the political divide, from the anti-migrant campaign in the North London, outside a meeting to organize against the right wing, Sabi Dalu from the protest group Stand Up to Racism wants the government to work more closely with council so that their residents are better informed. Well, the last lap, this should include explaining why these people are here, where they come from, what is happening in those countries. She says that they are in the process of seeking asylum and going through application process, settling them in with the community. I think he have got far right organizations that are determined to repeat the event of last year, she added. And because of their own clinical reasons, they want to stir up racist violence and in order to build their own political organizations. That said, she feels that voices on the right are whipping up and weaponizing a wide feeling of discontent among the public of labor calls to public spending, and that the government is making silly concessions to the right in doing so. Stopping the boat is a challenge which haunts the government as it did the Conservatives. The Home Office has managed to cut the asylum claim backlog currently standing at 79,000. But the claimants keep coming and the cost of accommodation is soaring. There is feeling the government is struggling to cope and ignoring the views of the community. Many are in agreement that they have having more than 200 hotels full of asylum seekers over waiting for lengthy period for decisions on the application is not sustainable situation. Whether or not the current protests continue, the government will have a solution. Wow, quite a very long one there. You can see when people are angry, immigration is one of the difficult one when it comes to immigration. What do you think about the immigration in the United Kingdom presently? Let's know in the comment section, and make sure you turn on the notification bell when we drop the next video. Koiki Media, bringing the world closer to your